Good early afternoon. We are live. We're live. We're in the throes of spring break here in Orange Beach, Alabama. And we're here in Wisdom Harbor, high atop the Crystal Barbershop in the financial district of Orange Beach at the wharf. My shirt is from Sand Dollar Lifestyles. Little hook on the front. Beautiful art on the back. Did you see that? Were you able to see that when I turned around?
I think so. I looked away to get my microphone ready in case you had to ask me a question, which here we are talking, and I missed it.
Yeah, here. I'll just show you, Matt. There you go.
Oh, very
That
nice.
Good? Yeah.
The fish so nice, I named it twice.
Ah, must be a mahi. Yep. A mahi. A mahi. The fish so nice, they named it twice. Okay, we have a great show for you today. Dina Kilpatrick, good afternoon. Marcy Cross-Taylor, good morning. Sunny and windy in Pasco, Washington. Going to be 60 today. You love the professional noticer this morning? Yeah, I was very excited about that. The part 2 with Sandy Stimpson. Dave Larder, hey, from Phoenix. Pre-summer training day, 99 degrees, really? Oh, wow. Diana Torres-Acker, sunny and warm in Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain. George P. Cosser, Big G, how are you doing? We miss you, buddy. Kathy Dyer from Ohio. Good morning from Judith DeWitt from Spokane Valley, 44 degrees. It's amazing to me. I mean, you know, it was supposed to get really cold here last night, and it didn't get that cold.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it didn't get that cold.
Feels great outside.
Did you know that Austin got canceled? Last night?
Oh.
They canceled because he was supposed to be outdoors, and it was going to be, you know, they said it was cold and 20-mile-an-hour north winds, and so they Cobalt canceled, and Austin went back to Memphis. So anyway, Billy Roberts Paget, the daylilies are blooming. What is that song? It's a glorious day in the neighborhood. No, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. That's what he said. He didn't say it's a glorious day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day. Chris Comer, how you doing? Who did I miss? I missed somebody. Don Keller from Cincinnati. Jen Andrews. We just got a bunch of people on today. Jan Stefanko, how are you doing? Okay, are we ready for this? Sandy Atkins in El Salvador. We're glad you're here. We're going to do a very fun, very funny Blue Plate today, but we're going to start it off with a commercial. Oh, it's minus 17 in Dead Horse, Alaska? Yeah. Oh, that's the coldest place. Oh my gosh. So we're going to start this off with a commercial. And this is a commercial for my friends and clients, Tucker ATV. And so I had this idea, just a kind of a funny commercial, just kind of a little spoof type commercial. And so when I was up at the hunting camp, Matt told me how to film this, and then I got back and Matt and Devin put this together. And so we've already seen it. You might have seen it on social media. We put it out, and I know that Tucker ATV has put it out. But let's see this 60-second commercial, Matthew. I'm a New York Times best-selling author, and for years, I worked in a traditional office. I wrote The Traveler's Gift and 25 other books, all indoors. But I love the outdoors. Today, thanks to Tucker ATV and the fine people at Polaris, I can finally work wherever I wish. Shannon and Lisa Tucker sold me on the finest piece of office furniture I've ever owned. Now, if I'm writing a scene about the water, my office can be beside a lake. Conveniently, the Ranger Crew desk even has room for fishing rods. If I need the silence of nature, I roll my office into the woods. And just so you know, a gun rack credenza comes standard. It's true, my 4-wheel drive Ranger Crew desk is the most versatile workplace on the market. I'm Andy Andrews for Tucker ATV and Office Furniture, the small town business with the national reputation. Now there's a nice desk. There is a nice desk. And I actually, I decided to film it, but I actually do that. I mean,
yeah, it's so cool.
I've done that for several years. It has a steel top, and so I'll pull up beside a lake or pull up overlooking a meadow or something, and put my chair and my little folding table up top and get the computer out and work. So anyway, Tucker ATV and Office Furniture. All right, today we're going to talk about the law of unintended consequences. And we're going to give you some crazy examples. Now, unintended consequences can be grouped into 3 types, okay? There is a positive, unexpected benefit that's unintended. There can be a negative, unexpected drawback. And then there is the one that's most interesting. It's what's called a perverse result. That's when an intended solution just makes a problem worse than it was gonna be. And so I found this great quote to illustrate. And this is by John Muir. But I think this is just such a great quote. When we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it is hitched to everything else in the universe. It's kind of another way of calling the butterfly effect, but I think that's really true. You think, oh, this will work, this will help, and then all of a sudden over here, this happens. You go, well, I didn't expect that. I think that a personal unintended consequence that we see around the house. Well, here, let me show you. The boys and I have these kind of tennis shoes. These are, I don't really know what they are, but they're the kind the boys said to get. And they're light, and they're comfortable right out of the box, but they have this unique design on the bottom. Kind of waffly, or whatever you want to call it, ridgy. And that's just, this design is for traction. So when, it doesn't slip, like put it right here, like watch this. I can't even move it, Matt. I mean, it won't even slide. Look, and not sideways or backwards. It won't even slide. The traction on this shoe is incredible. And it's because of these ridges. But the unintended consequence is if you're walking outside and these things collect rocks. I mean, their rocks will jam in there, they'll jam in there, they jam in. And if you have a mama in your house who has a hardwood floor, I mean, because the boys, and you can tell when you got one, because you walk in, it's like click, 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 and Polly's like, get the rocks out of your shoes, get the rocks out. So we're like, okay. But the law of unintended consequences, these shoes have great traction, but they have ruined many a hardwood floor. Here is, you're going to start with a couple of easy ones. Here's the action. I'm going to tell you the action, then the unintended consequence. The action was prohibition in the United States. All right, the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, it was enacted in 1920. and it aimed to reduce alcohol consumption by banning its production, its sale, and transport. So the unintended consequence was that instead we got organized crime, we got government corruption, and increased violence as people turned to illegal sources for alcohol. And so that was the unintentional consequence. You know, Al Capone. Al Capone was an unintended consequence of Prohibition. But there was another unintended consequence that happened much later, and that is television shows and movies. Think about how many television shows and movies about Prohibition, and because of Prohibition, because of alcohol, and because of bootleg whiskey. I mean, The Untouchables with Elliot Ness, that would have never happened if we hadn't had Prohibition. Dukes of Hazzard, the Dukes of Hazzard. Bo and Luke Duke, and the General Lee. I mean, I guess it was it was like county prohibition, just like in Hazard County, I guess. But that's just the law of unintentional consequences. All right, here's an action. The creation of the internet. So the development of the internet, it was an optimistic endeavor to connect people and share information globally. And the unintended consequence is we got social media. That's all I need to say. That's all I need to say. That's bad enough. As far as I'm concerned, that's just bad enough. All right, so now we got three big ones, and these are great unintended consequences. Here's the action. The action is, once upon a time, in 1890, a New Yorker named Eugene Schieffelin took his intense love of Shakespeare to the next level. Now, most Shakespeare fanatics really, most of them, they channeled their interest by going to see the plays, analyzing them, and talking to other Shakespeareanados or reading everything they can about Shakespeare. But no, this guy, he wanted more. He wanted to look out his window and see the same kind of birds in the sky that Shakespeare had seen. Now, in all of his writings, in every one of Shakespeare's writings, he mentioned 65 different species of birds. Now, some of them he mentioned, who knows how many times he mentioned these things, all right? I mean, he could have mentioned cardinals 15 or 20 times. He could have mentioned mockingbirds 8 or 9 times. But there was one mention of a bird that kind of got him going. And what he was wanting to do is he was wanting, if America did not have whatever bird Shakespeare mentioned, he was going to bring them from Europe, because he lived in America and he wanted to see these birds. He lived in New York City, lived near Central Park. So, of all the birds that Shakespeare mentioned, this guy saw one mention of a starling. Mention a starling one time. One mention in Henry VI. And so, Schieffelin released 100 European starlings in Central Park. 100. Because America didn't have any starlings. And he wanted to look up and see the same sky, same birds in the sky that Shakespeare saw. So he released 100 starlings in Central Park. Now, just imagine him watching these starlings flutter off into the park and hoping they survive and maybe breed. Okay, here's the unintended consequence. He was hoping for them to survive and maybe breed. Maybe breed? Well, they survived and they multiplied exponentially. They spread across America at an astonishing rate. And today, official estimates are that there are around 200 million starlings. All of them descended from Scheffelin's initial 100 birds. Now, today, of course, with our, let's call it our odd cultural climate, as you might imagine, there are disagreements about the value of these starlings to our society. And I have taken the liberty of creating a pro and con list according to the points on each side in this disagreement. Okay, so first, we're going to go with the pro-starling side, the people who do not want anything to happen to these starlings. All right, now animal rights groups do not want these starlings touched. They don't want them touched, Matthew. And so here are their points. Here's their points. These are the pro points for starlings, according to animal rights people. Male starlings are gifted nest decorators. Starling pairs are usually devoted parents. Well, I guess they are. They each got 1 million kids. Right? Starlings are talented mimics. They can reproduce the sounds of humans, other birds, and inanimate objects like a ringing phone. What are parrots for? What are we going to do with parrots? Okay, here's the other one. Starlings are known for their graceful dances. Their iridescent feathers shimmer and sparkle with star-like dots. Okay, now, you ready for the con starling side? Now, I know they got like dots on them, okay? But they do $800 million in crop damage each year in the United States. There's also sanitation issues. Their large amounts of droppings are corrosive to cars, buildings, and anything else they drop on. The sheer amount of droppings together with their chemical action can kill trees and any vegetation underneath the trees. Oh my God, we're just like, they're just pooping acid. I mean, you could drive under a flock of birds and have your car disappear out from around you. Starlings carry, here's another. Now I know that they are great nest decorators, but starlings carry diseases that are transmissible to people, including blastomycosis, whatever that is, salmonella, and transmissible gastroenteritis. Transmissible gastroenteritis. So I guess you sitting in a room with somebody, you go, ooh, who's that? Oh, and so I guess, I'm sorry, I was bird watching. I had this transmittable gastroenteritis. All right, since 1960, they've been responsible for the most deadly bird strikes in aviation. Didn't that one that landed on the Hudson? Mm-hmm. Wasn't that a bird strike?
It was.
Starlings?
I think it was a goose.
It was a goose.
A goose? No, they just said it was a goose. It was starlings. They just didn't want to. They just didn't want to. They didn't want to be blamed for getting knocked down with little birds. I mean, you just imagine Tom Hanks because I'm sure Sully looked like Tom Hanks. And you imagine Tom Hanks going, "It was a goose. It was we're coming out there. It was a goose." No,
Yeah, I guess,
Tom, it was a starling.
I guess it sounds better. I'm sure it was probably 100 starlings. They're like, we'll just say it was one big goose.
One big goose. But 19 starling strikes have happened since 1990 at the Salt Lake City airport alone. Now, Washington State, this is pretty funny. Washington State, now they're apparently on PETA's no-fly list. They have emerged as the leader in poisoning these birds. And last year, they poisoned 650,000 of them. Which 200 million minus 650,000. I mean, that is barely a dent, right? The most popular poison. Now, this is one of those kind of things. The most popular poison is called DRC 1339, which is often sprinkled on French fries, a favorite starling snack. Within a day or two, starlings keel over from organ failure. I don't know that you need the poison on them. I've had fast food French fries that I thought I was going to keel over from organ failure within a couple of days. Man, that poison though. Now that would be a great answer to a trivia thing, wouldn't it? Or you could really show off when somebody starts talking about starlings. But think about a trivia contest. What is the most popular poison for putting on French fries to get rid of starlings? That would be DRC 1339. Correct. So just remember DRC 1339, and you can fascinate your friends. Okay, here's another one. The action was somebody released a python into the Everglades instead of allowing it to die the natural death by 12 gauge that all snakes deserve. And the unintended consequence? The raccoons, rabbits, possums, foxes, and every other small warm-blooded animal that had lived in the Everglades for centuries are gone because Burmese pythons have eaten them. Burmese pythons grow to 20 feet and 200 pounds, among the largest snakes in the world. And they're mostly ambush hunters and constrictors. They kill smaller animals by biting them on the head and suffocating them as they are swallowed. They're basically eating them alive. And larger animals like deer and alligators, these snakes are eating alligators. The larger animals are seized whenever it's convenient, and they're crushed and strangled in the coils before swallowing. Large constrictor snakes have never existed in North America. And native wildlife species had never seen them before, and so scientists say they didn't recognize them as predators. And scientists say the snakes are responsible for a 99% drop in the small mammal population of the park. I have some friends that drive that highway, at night a lot, and they said that, I say a lot, I don't know, once a month, but they, you say they drive it a lot, it makes them sound like drug dealers, doesn't it? But they drive it like once a month, and they said you see just deer and raccoons and possums and foxes, just all. He said, "There's nothing. You don't see nothing now." occasionally a snake. Boom, 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 boom. Nobody knows how many pythons are out there, but estimates run to hundreds of thousands. And a problem with trying to count them is that they're what scientists call, and I think this is a scientific term, hard to detect. Their black, brown, and tan camouflage fits perfectly in the marsh. And it also fits perfectly in the high ground. And it fits perfectly in the trees. And it fits perfectly in the water. So pretty much you can't see them. They're good swimmers. And they can stay underwater for half an hour or more, which is like 29 minutes longer than you can. You know, I'm thinking. Scientists who work with these snakes, now get this just drives me crazy. Scientists who work with snakes get tired of people who say how much they hate them. I mean, I'm thinking snakes aren't crazy about us either. But they really should not be here. I mean, those Burmese pythons should not be here. We can't agree on much as Americans, but most Floridians agree that having these large invasive snakes eating up the wildlife is not a good thing. This is the snake that ate Florida. And given the python's many survival advantages, scientists say they will never be eliminated. And today the objective is containment and control. And you know how they're doing that. You know how containment and control is rednecks and reality TV. That's the only thing they have. That's the only thing they have. You know, I've got a family connection to this. I'm afraid. You know, Adam, our youngest son, ever since he was a little kid, Adam has no fear. You know, he doesn't have. This is Adam here with the shark. The alligator guard. You know, Adam, when he was a little kid, now Austin's 23, Adam's 20. When Austin was a little kid, you could put Austin down on the floor and just go on about your business, have a conversation, drink coffee, just occasionally glance at Austin, and he'd be right there. But Adam, if you put Adam on the floor, you better watch him because he's gone. He was gone. And now, you know, he's catching sharks, hunting hogs out in the swamp, and so, you know, we're on watching some of this on TV, and Adam says, I'm going to do that next winter. I'm going to go to the Everglades. I'm going to hunt these pythons. And he'll do it too. He'll do it. You know he'll do it. Man, just start praying for Adam now. Could we put Adam on the prayer list? No, put Polly and me on prayer list. That's who to put on the prayer list. Good grief. I mean, there's a 200-pound snake, a 20-foot snake that's eating deer and alligators. And you think they won't eat a person? Okay, let me calm down. I got one more to do here. All right, old man. You got to help me talk Adam out of this. Okay. All right. This is my favorite. It is the action is the Four Pests campaign of the Chinese leader Mao Zedong. He initiated his Four Pests campaign after reaching the conclusion that several things needed to be exterminated. He actually had a chart made. Okay, mosquitoes, flies, rats, and sparrows. Now, while many people nowadays might regard tampering with Mother Nature as an irresponsible idea, this is a classic case of, well, gosh, it seemed like a good idea at the time. This happened in the 50s, okay? And Mao knew nothing about animals. But, as communist leader, he didn't want to discuss his plan. He wasn't going to listen to any experts. He just decided that these 4 pests should be killed. Now, while the Chinese citizens were called upon to wage war on all 4 of these pests, Mao Zedong was particularly annoyed by the sparrow. And the Chinese were having a rough go of it as it was. They're adapting to the reinvention of farming. So they felt particularly victimized by the sparrow, which had a particular fondness for eating. And Chinese scientists calculated that for every 1,000,000 sparrows killed, there would be food for 60,000 people. So now, armed with this information, Mao launched the Great Sparrow Campaign. Okay, now, let me ask you this. Mao Zedong is getting everybody involved. He's launching the Great Sparrow Campaign. How do you think they'd do it? How do you think they go about it? I mean, you're going to give them all Red Ryder BB guns and say everybody gets 2 sparrows a day? We're going to put French fries with DCR 1339 out there for them? I mean, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Nets? You're not going to believe this. To accomplish this task, Chinese citizens were mobilized in massive numbers to eradicate the birds by forcing them to fly until they fell from exhaustion. And the crazy thing is it worked. First of all, you couldn't get, if you try to get Americans to do that, it's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay. I mean, we got pythons. And you couldn't say, okay, I want 500,000 people shoulder to shoulder to walk across the Everglades. We're going to take out these pythons in 2 days. You couldn't get anybody to do that. But I guess in China, it's like, okay, you're going to get these sparrows or we're going to shoot you. If you're inside, we're going to shoot you. I guess. Because the Chinese people took to the streets clanging pots and pans or beating drums to terrorize these birds and prevent them from landing. And experts say that hundreds of millions of sparrows were killed as part of this campaign. And I mean, as a result of these efforts, the sparrow became nearly extinct in China. And that's when the problem started. Okay, because by April of 1960, it started to become painfully obvious to the Chinese leaders that the sparrows, in addition to eating grains, ate insects. Lots of insects. And without the sparrows to curb the insect population, the crops were getting decimated in a way that was far worse than if the birds had just been allowed to hang around. And consequently, agricultural yields that year were disastrously low. Rice production, in particular, was hit the hardest. And on the advice of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, Mao's listening now, I guess, Mao declared a full stop to the Great Sparrow Campaign. But he had a poster that had 4 places, so he had to replace the sparrow with something. You know what he replaced it with? Bed bugs. Those are the 4 pests on the naughty list. But the damage was done and the situation got worse. Locust populations swarmed the countryside. Things got so bad that the Chinese government started importing sparrows from the Soviet Union. The overflow of insects plus the added effects of the misuse of poisons and pesticides, significant contributor to the Great Chinese Famine. And seriously, in 1958 to 61, 3 years, an estimated 30 million people died of starvation. And this isn't like in 1961. I mean, this isn't like in the 10th century. This is like... But there is a PS to this. It would seem that the overarching lesson would be that the Chinese have not learned an overarching lesson. That would be the overarching lesson. According to the BBC, since 2004, the Chinese have launched patriotic extermination campaigns of one kind or another that have targeted badgers, raccoons, rats, cockroaches, dogs, and cats. Yep, the overarching lesson. They ain't learning any overarching lessons. So there we go. That's the unbelievable tale of the unintended consequences. I think I'm most horrified by 30 million deaths. I think I am most freaked out by the pythons in the Everglades, though. Good grief. You know, they did something like that in Australia with rabbits. Some guy took rabbits to Australia because he wanted to hunt them. But you know, there is a reason that there's a saying about breeding like rabbits. You know, rabbits, you get a bunch of rabbits and they breed like rabbits. And now there's gajillions of them in Australia. Along with gajillions of kangaroos. You know, I'm going to tell you this, then we'll go. When we were in Australia once, we were walking in downtown Australia. It was in downtown Australia. I can't remember exactly where. It was downtown Australia. And there were these bull bumpers on cars. You see them on trucks here, right? But these are like on cars. And I mean like 60 or 70% of the cars. It's a Mercedes with bull bumpers on them. And the people that were with us, I said, why are all the bull bumpers on the cars? And the guy that was with us said, yes, for kangaroos. I said, what about kangaroos? Well, they put the bumpers on the car because they hit them at night. They hit kangaroos at night with their cars? And I'm thinking like deer here, you know? And I said, have you ever hit one? He said, one? I've hit hundreds. Hundreds? And I said, yeah. You know, you drive from Brisbane to so-and-so, you might hit 20 or 30 in the night. And I'm like, good grief. But, and I guess that's why they got all the bull bumpers. The roo bumpers. All right. There's the unintended consequences for today. We appreciate you being with us. And we will see you again Thursday on the Wisdom Harbor edition, the wisdomharbor.com edition of the Blue Play Special. And we'll see you then. Bye-bye.